Hi, everybody. It's Matt Anderson. In this video, I want to share what's in the Breakthrough Tracker. It's 132 pages, so there's quite a lot of detail, but don't let that put you off because there's a ton of great stuff in here. And I'll kick off with the intro page. And by the way, you can buy copies of this on Amazon. So if you want a hard copy, they look lovely. They're like this, then that's great. Here you have the PDF version. So the first page is a great place right from the get-go to state your purpose if you are fortunate enough to be clear on what your purpose in life is, plus your definitions of true success and true failure. That can be an empowering exercise as well. And then the next two pages are the table of contents. So anytime you're looking for something, this would be the obvious place to go. And basically, just to give a very quick overview, it kicks off with the things you would expect well, maybe to think about in advance. In other words, dreams, goals, belief, they're at the beginning. And then there are sections for each month. There's even some quarterly sections on dreaming again and on what you want, because I think it's such a jugular topic. And then once you've got through the monthly sections, in the middle, then there's a chunk of pages with some just great content, which is from my book, The 5 Habits to Mine Your Gold. And then there are monthly, what I call GPSs, which is sort of like a monthly review, really. And then it wraps up with two or three pages of also great thoughts and resources as well. So that's the quick overview. And clearly, I'd like to sort of explain some of that in a bit more detail. The next page I'll draw your attention to is pages 6 and 7. Now, there are 4 quarterly, because it's the book is kind of calendared for 1 year. And at the beginning and then every quarter, there are these 2 pages of questions to get you dreaming again, which I think is absolutely wonderful. And so this is a great place to kick off, to sort of, again, think bigger on what you would love to have in your life. They're just wonderful questions. And some are also designed to get you to think differently about all kinds of different things, frankly, like, what are you most proud of, defining moments, greatest lessons. I mean, there's all kinds of different things that you can be asked. My favorite question in here is the, what would I do if I knew I couldn't fail? But there's all kinds of great stuff. Okay. So there's a couple of pages on dreams. Then there's a couple of pages to write out specific goals, and everything's explained, and there are examples given of what that looks like. So lots of room there. I also particularly like at the top, I wrote, are these goals worthy of me? Because we usually forget to ask that question when we're thinking about goals, and it's actually a really empowering one. And then there's a section on what breakthroughs do I want this year, with the definition of breakthrough, which really pretty much checks the boxes of what's covered in my videos on the topic of breakthroughs. And then after goals, there's beliefs. So there's 2 pages. The left-hand page are current beliefs, which are really meant to reflect current reality. So if your current reality in a specific area of your life is really only about a 7 out of 10, it's actually very average, then the idea is that that's the belief that you currently have about that I expect average results in this part of my life. And that's quite confronting and difficult, but that's the idea. It's like, I only deserve and expect something mediocre, because if you're getting mediocre results, well, then that is probably really what the belief is in your head. You just may not be aware of it. So that's on the left-hand page, but then, of course, that's meant to contrast what you really want to believe, which you want to state as something that you already have. So if fitness isn't one of your greatest strengths, then it's, I'm so happy and grateful that I am fit, strong, and flexible, for example. So 2 pages on beliefs, and then we get into the months. Now, needless to say, I only need to explain this once. But firstly, you've got essentially a line per day of the month to write down whatever you think is important. I mean, it's up to you how you use it. You might choose to list something that happened. You might choose to list something you learned or a revelation. I mean, again, it's entirely up to you. But what I absolutely love about this, because it doesn't look that exciting, but the real value of this is at the end of the year, when you want to look back and review your year. It's an absolutely fantastic and an easy way to have a glance over all the things that happened throughout the year. And of course, the story won't lie, and we forget things, and it just brings things back. But it also, again, highlights main events in a very clear way. And that's extremely helpful for when you're then looking at the following year in terms of planning for goals. So in the short term, it doesn't seem so significant. It's also really helpful for monthly and quarterly reviews. So there's lots of benefits. But anyway, otherwise I wouldn't put it in here in the first place. So you've got that. And then on the right-hand page, this is for weekly planning. So the idea is that once a week, as you're looking ahead at the upcoming week, to ask yourself the question, what are one, two, or three outstanding outcomes I would love to see happen this year, A, in my personal life, and B, in my professional life? And you write those down, and you write down what the start date of the week is, and it helps you focus on the most important things first for your upcoming week. So then you can hopefully put those in your calendar to plan for them. Now, there is another page, and it's actually at the very back of the tracker, so I won't scroll through the whole thing, with a breakdown of other things to think about as you're doing weekly planning. So I'll come back to it, but this is the most important piece. And that's why I included it as part of each month. And then when you flip the page, on the left-hand page, then you've got a habit tracker for every month of the year. So you've got the days of the month across the top, and then down the left-hand side, the habit that you want. And the power habit section is right there in the top of the second half. And then also the space for weekly habits and monthly habits as well, to separate them all out. Please don't feel any obligation to fill all of this out. I mean, some months I do, some months I absolutely do not. But it does help you laser in on what matters most. So use it however you see fit. But it's a crucial tracking tool. Don't get me wrong, otherwise it wouldn't be in here. But how you use it, of course, is up to you. And so every month has a habit tracker. And then there are 3 pages of what I call the Ask Tracker, which is a chance for you to keep track of all the things you're asking for in your business. And I absolutely love this. I think it's a fantastic way to stay on top of what you're asking for and then what the outcomes are. I mean, you can literally measure the financial gain from asks that you've made over time by tracing them back to initially what it is you stepped up and asked for. So there are 3 pages of asking trackers each month, and hopefully that's enough for you. There are sometimes months when I'm asking for more. And then what I sometimes will do, because I'm pretty good about following up, that I may skip the second half, these second 3 columns, and instead I might just start writing in new names there, because like I said, the important thing is it's the quantity of this as well as the quality that matters the most. And I don't worry about, I'll go back through past months and check to see what I'm doing for follow-up. That's less of a concern for me. And of course, some of you have CRM systems as well to use for things along those lines as well. So that's what you have every month. And what I'm going to do for a moment here is I am going to hit the pause on the record if I can, and then I'll come back in just a second. Your screen sharing is paused. That's not helpful. Sorry, I clicked the wrong thing. Pause the. Okay, I'm back. I didn't want to make you dizzy by scrolling through all the months. So every quarter, there are 3 pages set up for you. Actually, 4 pages, excuse me. And the first page is a page to do some reflections. Clearly, you can use this page for other things if you see fit. It's really intended to reflect on the previous 3 months and almost use it as a diary or as a journal. And these are just some suggested questions. And then the next page is literally a blank page to jot down things that you want. And again, you don't have to wait 3 months to fill this out. You could have this as an ongoing list at any given time. You know, that might be really helpful and motivating for you. I just want you to know that every 3 months you have those 2 pages. And then in addition to that, you then get to do the dream questions again as well, which you saw at the beginning that I explained too. So 4 pages every quarter to go through this process. That completes. So that's the 12 months as you work through the year. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there are also some pages here with lots of just great information. So this is my best short content on the topic of fear of success and some solutions to overcoming that. A great resource to revisit frequently, I would say. You know, to me, the most key point is make your purpose greater than your fear. But choosing love over fear is also wonderful. I mean, all of these are important and helpful, because I think fear of success is a very common obstacle for people. I mean, this could be part of a separate program in our community. And then the setback plan is something I created because we all have setbacks. I mean, difficult things happen to all of us in life at times. And I don't know, I'd never come across something like this before. And it occurred to me it's helpful because it happens to all of us. Wouldn't it be helpful if we had a bit more of a plan about how to approach this rather than just feeling miserable and beating ourselves up? And so I've got sort of, I suppose, a 4-step plan here to deal with it, when you do have a setback, which again we're all going to experience throughout the course of any year. And that tool is there. My 5 worthiness mindsets, which I think are incredibly priceless. And don't forget, you could always just print one of these pages and put it up somewhere more visible. But I think this is incredibly important to keep our heads in the right place so we continue to grow and think bigger. My 5 steps to elevating beliefs. So changing beliefs, limiting beliefs. I mean, that's a core part of the 7-step process to becoming more of a rising star. And this can complement that as well. Then this home of confidence. I mean, frankly, this could easily be a 10-week program, just literally the content on this page alone, all these different strategies to boost confidence. So again, if nothing else, I just want you to be aware that it's here, and that this is an excellent tool to take a look at, where you've got the foundation of confidence at the bottom. And like the metaphor being that it's like building a home, except it's always a work in progress. It's never complete. And then there's different layers, I believe, also that build confidence on those key foundation areas, which are frequently challenged, right? So, I'm not pretending none of this is easy. Then some time mastery suggestions are on page 103. Some of the best ideas in terms of feeling more comfortable with how your time is being organized. And then there is a written summary here on identity and power habits, which we talk about a lot in this community. So there's a written version of that on page 104. Another great strategy, especially for using on a habit tracker, are these daily questions, which Marshall Goldsmith pioneered in his book Triggers. And it's a way of working on something that's harder to measure, that's more subjective, and or is more of a personal quality that you want to work on. There are some great suggestions here about things to do that, and you always word the question on a scale of 1 to 10. Did I do my best today to ... And there's lots of different examples of that. So this is great. I mean, this is what Goldsmith coached Fortune 100 CEOs on for many, many years, and that was his key measurement tool. And he had a phenomenally successful career based on this. So it's a really useful one that we should all leverage as well. And then we get into the monthly reviews. And I'm going to click pause again and share it from the start of the year, because I think it's easier for me to explain it that way. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so I scrolled through another 20 or so pages, and the month to introduce you to the monthly review, the monthly GPS. And essentially, there are 2 pages for each month. And if you're starting at the beginning of the year, then you're going to first review January, of course. And what I've got then are 1 page of questions about the month, how you're progressing on your goals, the identities, your breakthroughs. I mean, hopefully this isn't too complicated. It's pretty straightforward. What is life trying to teach me this month? That's always a great question to reflect on. Some financial stuff, forgiving ourselves can help a lot with getting some mental rubbish out of our heads. A reality check on, are we creating enough moments in our life? In question 8. Then question 9 is really, again, one you might come up with that's important that you want to ask yourself consistently. So that's the left-hand page, or so the right-hand page, because it works backwards into the tracker. And then as part of your monthly review, then you're looking at the month to come. And so then you're saying, okay, so based on what's happened this month, or what's going on in my life now, next month, what do I want to stop doing? What do I want to do less? What do I need to keep doing because it's working really well? What do I need to do more of? What do I need to start doing? And what do I need to accept? Which are the things that we can't control, such as an injury or a challenge that somebody else has got going on in their life that we have no control over. I mean, COVID would have been a good example of that. always helpful to ask that question, because again, it gives us that reality check, because it's usually something that we're quite frustrated about, but we have no control over. So it's a good awareness check. And then some just other questions that I think are really helpful to ask most months. I mean, again, you don't feel like you've got to be perfect and do it every month, but they're great questions. If I only had 1 year to live, how would I structure this coming month? Just again, rather like the dreaming, it gives us a different perspective, a different lens to focus on. Well, what really matters the most? What would I not worry about if I knew I only had a year to live? Again, it doesn't hurt to ask the question. And then I like to flip it around. Now, of course, the number of years you're going to have to change depending on your age. So I threw in 40, but again, it depends on your age. If you're already in your 70s, then you're probably not going to pick 40, but you get the idea, right? So anyway, if you had 40 years to live, you could put 50 or 60, again, depending on your age. How would I structure this coming month? And that's also a completely different paradigm on, if I'm thinking really long term, what's most important this month? So these are just healthy questions to ask. They don't confuse us. I think they just give us a different perspective, because common sense will kick in and you'll make your own decisions. But I find them really helpful. And because of all of these things, all of this review, are there any changes I need to be making to my monthly or my annual goals? And then lastly, ultimately, certainly some people would argue that the most important thing about our lives is that we have moments when we say, actually, it's A, B, C, and D. When we say to ourselves, there's no place I'd rather be right now, there's no one I'd rather be with, and there's nothing I'd rather be doing. I mean, it's a wonderful combination, but even if you separate them out, it's still really, it's a bit of a reality check when you look over a month and think, gosh, I didn't really have any experiences like that. That can be a bit of a wake-up call. So deeper stuff, but hopefully valuable. And this is something that you definitely want to do every month. Again, you don't have to fill in every question every month. However, I would certainly, I would say if you do nothing else on a monthly basis, at least do the stop less, keep more, start and accept section, because this is where the GPS piece kicks in, because you can make small adjustments on a monthly basis and be successful with it. And I learned this a few years ago. The frustrating part is when you get to a whole year goes by and you didn't stop to think about any of these things. That's firstly a very depressing experience, but also then sometimes that's another, we estimate how much change we think we can make. And so we have all these drastic ideas which aren't sustainable. So the monthly GPS I found is an extremely effective way to make change. And then to conclude on what's in this tracker, there is, as I'd mentioned earlier, there's a page on weekly planning. Again, you don't need to go answer all the questions, but if you want to, you can, but it's really designed to get you to just sort of not, it's designed to get you to be proactive. I learned this long ago, almost 30 years ago, from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the power of weekly planning, but also the power of being proactive about things so that you don't get caught off guard and have to waste an hour of your day because you run out of some essential household supply, or there's no cat food, or whatever it might be, childcare needs, things it's easy to overlook, not forgetting birthdays. I mean, so they sound quite trivial, but the devil's in the details. When they add up, it's about proactively shopping and planning and thinking so that you don't have all these little crises coming up because you just forgot to do certain types of seemingly basic things. Again, we're not perfect, but this can be a very helpful list, and there's room for you to add other things to your list in your planning. And it's also, of course, more importantly than the details, it's also make sure you're putting the big things in first, like those top 3 outstanding accomplishments, but also the most important meetings, the preparation you need to do, exercise time with the family, all the key things in your life. It's about making sure you give them priority so that it's just not this directionless, insane busyness that I think a lot of us feel sometimes. And then lastly, 2 more pages. It's interesting. When I wrote my book, The 5 Habits to Mine Your Gold, perhaps the biggest surprise I got from writing the book was how frequently the concept of the support around you, how much of a difference that makes, how important it really is. And I think our culture doesn't value it much. And so it's not on our conscious thinking a lot. But the reality is we need a great support team. And so my intent here is, who are the supportive people? And from a business standpoint, who are the most profitable connections that you have that can open the biggest and best doors? I've learned that if you can keep your focus on those top 10 to 15 people, let's say, that's applying the 80-20 rule in your business. So again, I've had clients where this was their power habit. It was weekly touches to the people on this list, not every week, but at least looking at the list on a weekly basis, because again, there's typically a much smaller number of people that are going to have the biggest impact on our livelihoods. And then the last page are some great questions to reflect on. Should you have the time? Should you find yourself sitting on a plane and needing to challenge your brain with something really useful? There are some terrific questions here that are well worth, revisiting from time to time. Here's a few that are great ones to ask even daily. Just a good resource to finish up with. So that wraps it up, actually. And I hope that was really helpful for you. There's lots there. Look, it would make, I have mine around with me it's always by my side. I love it. It's a dopamine hit for me to write something in the asking tracker, or to check the box, or to write in the number on my monthly habit tracker. And as I said, it's a great tool to have handy. I'd highly recommend using it. And whether you print the PDF off or buy the paper copy, that's, you decide on that one. Anyway, let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the community somewhere else. Take care.